Hello, today I'm going to be unboxing and giving you a first look at ASRock's B650E Phantom Gaming ITX Wi-Fi, which is a mini ITX motherboard compatible with AMD's brand new Ryzen 7000 CPUs. I found it on sale today for just under $290 US, so let's go ahead and get it unboxed and take a closer look at it. So this is everything that comes in the box with our motherboard. So we've got our user manual, a guide to installing the CPU and the M5 socket. We've got a Phantom Gaming postcard and two ASRock Velcro cable straps. We've got two SATA cables, one's got a right angle connector, one's got a straight connector. We've got the antenna for our Wi-Fi and we've got a keycap. Taking a closer look at the motherboard, starting off at the bottom, working from left to right. First of all, we've got a HD audio connector, followed by a speaker header, and next to that we've got a chassis fan header. The header just to the left of the first PCIe slot is a UART connector, so take care not to confuse this with an ARGB connector. And at the bottom right hand side of the motherboard we've got a clear CMOS jumper. Working up the right hand side of the motherboard, first of all we've got a USB 3.2 Gen 2x2 front panel Type C connector. Next to that we've got our system panel header where we're going to plug in our front panel connectors, and just behind that we've got a USB 2.0 header. We've then got a forward facing a USB 3.2 Gen 1 header, followed by two SATA ports, and then we've got our 24-pin power connector. Working along the top of the motherboard, first of all we've got our CPU fan and water pump header. You'll notice the water pump header has a cable already plugged into it, and that's coming from our actively cooled M.2 SSD heatsink. We've then got two 3-pin 5V ARGB connectors, and at the top left of the motherboard we've got a single 8-pin EPS power connector. The motherboard features a 10+2+1 phase power design with an aluminium heatsink over the VRM. In the middle of the motherboard we've got our M5 socket with the standard mounting brackets. To open the socket up we need to push the lever up towards the bottom of the motherboard, and then the socket cover can simply be lifted up. The motherboard has two RAM slots and will accommodate up to a maximum of 64GB of DDR5 at up to 6200 megatransfers per second overclocked. At the bottom of the motherboard we've got a single Gen 5x16 PCIe slot, which supports by 16 modes, and the PCIe lanes come from the CPU. The motherboard features two M.2 slots. There's one on the front behind the really beefy actively cooled heatsink, which is the clue that this is the Gen 5 slot. I'll go ahead and remove the heatsink to give you a closer look at it. So as we mentioned, the front slot is a Gen 5 slot, and it has four PCIe lanes coming directly from the CPU. Our second M.2 slot is on the back of the motherboard, and it's a Gen 4x4 slot with the PCIe lanes again coming from the CPU. On the rear of the motherboard we've also got an embedded DisplayPort 1.4, and the motherboard features a 10-layer server-grade low-loss PCB. It's good to see the motherboard features ASRock's flexible integrated I/O shield. Take a look at the connectors. First of all we've got two USB 3.2 Gen 2 ports, one is Type A and one is Type C. Next to that we've got a 2.5 gigabit LAN port, and the motherboard does support ASRock's Killer LAN and a Killer Double Shot Pro. We've then got a HDMI 2.1 port with two USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type A ports next to them. You'll notice these ports are marked in red, signaling them as Lightning gaming ports. They're designed to have your keyboard and mouse plugged into them, and as they come from different controllers, this helps prevent any latency when you're gaming. We've then got four USB 2.0 Type A ports, followed by our gold-plated audio connectors, and the motherboard does support 7.1 channel HD audio and HEMIC audio. At the bottom we've got two antenna points for our Wi-Fi 6E and Bluetooth. So this looks to not only be a great looking motherboard, but it's a motherboard with a whole host of great features. And with the features the motherboard contains, it's hard to believe that this is actually AMD's more budget orientated chipset. One of the things I really like is that the motherboard isn't really built up, and in fact you have the option to remove the included actively cooled heatsink, and the motherboard is completely flat all around it, which is great because it goes against the recent trend in mini ITX motherboards, where if you do want to go with an air cooler or a low profile cooler, you're really going to struggle to install it. So I've actually got this for a small form factor build coming about the middle of November, and I'm going to use an air cooler where CPU cooling height is really limited. So this was the reason I asked ASRock for this particular motherboard. So you can look forward to seeing this in one of my builds fairly shortly. So if you have enjoyed this video, please remember to give it a thumbs up. And if you're not currently subscribed to the channel, please hit the subscribe button as well. Thanks for watching.